Okay. So as I said, thank you very much for coming. My name is Mbule Mwimba. I'm the Grants Director and Millennium Challenge Millennium Challenge Account Zambia. In the first place, I would like to sincerely thank each one and all the organizations who are here. And I'm doing so on behalf of the CEO for Millennium Challenge Account Zambia, as well as on behalf of MCC, Millennium Challenge and Millennium Cooperation. This is very important for us, and your presence here, actually we have come in many numbers. It shows very much the need or the desire, the willingness by the private sector to partner with the public sector. This is very, very encouraging. And as MCA Zambia, we are very, very much committed that we partner with the private sector. Again, I would like just during this workshop to encourage each one of you to feel 100% free. You should participate so that you get the benefit, the maximum benefit from this workshop or concept note writing workshop. It is very, very important that you understand what the concept note application form is all about. And it's only through your participation, you ask the questions you are not clear so that you understand and you respond positively to the call for proposals. Having said that, I would like possibly just to proceed with the first presentation, which I am actually starting. I think I'll put my mic aside, I'll just speak loud, I should be able to understand me. Thank you. Okay, so the presentation basically, to start with, I would just like to highlight the objectives of this workshop. We have 4 main objectives. Number 1, it is basically to give you a general context of innovation grant program. In what context are we operating or are we carrying out these innovations? So that you understand, and when you are applying, you are within that context. Number 2, very, very important as well, we would like to guide the applicants, particularly through the application process and forms. So my colleagues will guide you through the process of each stage of the application, particularly focusing on concept note. Next, we are also going to look at what is coming in terms of the timelines and the program. What is the process are we going to follow? The last one I mentioned that in my welcoming remarks is basically about please participate, ask questions. I should actually stress that our presence here or the Innovation Grants Program is about partnering with the private sector. We would like that you succeed, and that is why we are giving this one. And I would also like to stress this is purely a competitive process. So in terms of the outline for my presentation, about the Innovation Grants Program, I will talk about what is the goal, then what are our objectives, and whom are we targeting as beneficiaries. I will also talk about the governance, the Innovation Grants Program governance. How do we process the applications? It's very important to understand that aspect because I just mentioned it's a transparent process. For Innovation Grants Program, we don't have any preference. As I said, the funding is from the United States government through Millennium Challenge Account Zambia, but it does not mean that we'll give preference to Zambian companies or to American companies. It is purely competitive. We consider all of them equally. So the next, then we will move into the concept note process. I think at that time, my colleague Sandra, who is the team leader, will lead you into the concept note application form and what we expect from you, and also my colleagues from the specialists, social and gender, environment, as well as finance and procurement, they will equally speak. Next. After that, we'll just give you the timelines, how long it will take for us to process the whole second cycle. So the timelines will give you that one. I talked about presentations from my colleagues, social and gender, environment, financial management, and monitoring. All these ones, all of them, they are very critical for you if you are going to proceed to the next stage when we go for proposals. Because this is a two-stage process in our grant making. We have concept notes. Those who will score marks, acceptable marks, then we will invite them to submit full proposals. Next. So I'll move into the definition of what is innovation grant program. For some of you, this is very familiar. We have met and we have discussed. As I said, it is purely a competitive proper grant program to engage the private sector in innovative partnership opportunities in water, supply, sanitation, and drainage. Let me explain a little bit what we mean by that. It is purely competitive. I stress that point. I think the next one is for proper. This is where we have the challenge. The innovations, the ideas to improve the lives of people is with the private sector. They are the ones who do research. They are the ones who are thinking, the universities and others. And for us, that's why we want to partner with them, so that we improve the services, particularly those which are targeting water supply, sanitation, and solid waste. I think this also actually sets the boundary in terms of your concept notes. Innovation Grants Program is part and parcel of a larger project, Lusaka Water Supply, Sanitation and Drainage Project funded by MCC. It is a $355 million project. Innovation Grants is just a component of that. And we are meant to complement or supplement this larger compact, which is investing in water supply, also in drainage. And that is why we are focusing on water supply, sanitation, and drainage. Drainage aspect for us under Innovation Grants Program, it means solid waste management. The compact, funded by the US government, it is going to do a drainage system, particularly Bombay drainage here in Lusaka. And we know the solid waste which is thrown into those ones and they get blocked. The investment would go to waste if we put up this nice drainage system, engineered one, and again it is blocked. That is the more reason the Innovation Grants Program is focusing on solid waste management. And innovations can come from anywhere along the solid waste management chain. So, having said that, I will move to the overall goal of the Innovation Grants Program. As I mentioned, basically we want to increase and sustain access by the poor to improved services, water supply, and solid waste management. It's not just to emphasize that. I think it's important to keep it in your mind that we are focusing on poor people benefiting. And we suppose that the majority of the poor people live in peri-urban areas. To some extent, that also underscores the limitation. Which areas are you going to target on? Who are the beneficiaries? So in terms of specific objectives for Innovation Grants Program, number one, our objective is to improve water use. I know some of us, we live in these areas. We know how water is wasted. So innovations to improve water use, sanitation and hygiene, they are very important ones. I'll keep on mentioning about the poor. And you will see the following presentations focusing on women and the girls. our mothers. We know they are the ones normally who do a lot of work. They are the ones you'll find lining up for water. Sanitation and hygiene for our girls in schools. Do we have innovations that would improve sanitation for these girls? Those are just examples. I don't mean that we should restrict ourselves to those ones. The next one, blockage of sewer system, sewer and drainage system. I think I should talk about sewer system. As a compact, we are putting a sewer system, particularly in Mutendere. And we are also building the sewer ponds in Kaunda Square. If Lusaka Water was here, they could tell you what they find each time they go to and block the sewer system. Everything is thrown there. So we would like to see, is there any way we can improve so that the sewer systems are not blocked and people have better sanitation in terms of sanitation. Drainage, I mentioned that it's about solid waste management. Any innovations, recycling, collection, in terms of solid waste management, then they are all welcome. The other objective is related to opportunities for entrepreneurship and income generation activities. Again, these are restricted to water and sanitation. We would like to see the people we are targeting, the beneficiaries, those living in peri-urban areas, women and girls, and even other vulnerable people. How best can they have entrepreneur or projects related to water and sanitation, which are sustainable? I think I will talk about sustainability as we go ahead, but we would like that your innovations, they are sustainable. It is a key component the team look at. Is the proposal, the innovation is sustainable? Can it be scaled up? If you are writing a proposal or a concept note, just it's a one-off thing, I am afraid we are not keen on funding those ones. In a way, the innovation grants program, I'm talking to private sector, we are basically providing capital, a risk capital, that here is the capital. You will also put in, and can you move on and sustainably grow as a business? The last point, okay, I have already mentioned that I'm insisting on women and vulnerable groups because those are the people actually we would like that they benefit, those who are living in the peri-urban areas. So this second goal, what areas are we focusing on? If you are going to write a concept note, what are you going to focus on? Number one, as I said, it is we have made a call on water supply services. Any innovations? I would give you some general examples. We know there is a problem of water supply right now. And we know the majority of the people in Lusaka, in the peri-urban areas, the number of hours they have to access water is very limited. Do you have innovations that can improve access to water for a longer period? Instead of 3 hours, it goes up? Are you, all those kind of things, look at those ones. The other point we are focusing on is sanitation and hygiene. This one is again about peri-urban areas, rural areas, not rural areas, peri-urban areas. When, how do we improve sanitation? We have passed through those areas and sometimes we see sewer water running out, running just on top. We can think of maybe again, I'll go to our ladies, to our mothers. An old woman, aged woman, using a pit latrine. Just imagine how painful it would be for that lady to squat in that. Do we have innovations that can improve that access for these women, our elderly women? I'm just giving an example. Also men, because you know as you grow, the body is somehow limited. The next one is on solid waste management. I talked about that one. And the other one, the area we are focusing on is affordable financing mechanisms. I'll just give you an example. The financial institutions, they have a lot of loan facilities for improving household, home loans, motor vehicle, finance assets, and everything. but we don't have any specific product. For example, I'm just giving us an example, focusing on just to improve your sanitation at a household level. Do we have innovations in financing that kind of things? And related to that, I would like to stress one thing, particularly for Mtendere, where I said we are putting a sewer system. The government of Zambia and the government of United States of America, they are funding the sewer system, the main pipelines in Mtendere up to Kaunda Square, where we have sewer ponds. But people need to connect. How do we support those people as private sector? Remember, you are going there as a business. It's not free and that. And even the people in Mtendere should know, when a private sector partner with the government, it does not mean it is free. But as government of Zambia and the United States of America, they are saying, why not partner with the private sector who are very much innovative and come up with a mechanism for financing a baby. So for someone to build just a water closet, a toilet. But that money, it depends up to you how you get it and the innovations we use. I just want to give that as an example. I mentioned sustainability. Please get this, is very important. Whatever proposal concept you want to write, it has to be sustainable. How do you go on beyond the project period? You know, a project, it has a time frame. So once it comes to an end, what next? Do you also end up there? Or as a private sector, you want to say, here's the opportunity for my business, I have capital, I'm requested to contribute just a fraction of it, there I go, and you grow. I would like to see, for example, in terms of affordable financing mechanism, where the private sector develop a product. That is not only from Mtendere, but it spreads throughout Lusaka, throughout Zambia, that people are able to access. I have a beautiful house, I want to put a jacuzzi in my house now. Why not get a loan? And that type of innovations, we are looking for those ones. Next. So in terms of whom are we targeting? Who are the beneficiaries of innovation grants? I mentioned the challenge we have as innovation grants program, because the innovations are with you, the private sector. But the people who want to benefit are the poor people who may not have resources. And that is where the challenge is. Sometimes it is a general perception that there is no money in peri-urban areas. They are poor people. So even if when you are developing a product, you are targeting those who live in Kablonga, they are the ones who have money, the white-collar jobs, and all those. For those who are familiar with the bottom of the pyramid, but at the bottom of the pyramid, there is money. I think another example I can give you is the mobile providers. They are very good at that, and they realize there is money in those communities, the so-called poor people. See how they develop the products, even to buy a talk time for 1 quarter, and put together, they make money out of them. It is a challenge again to you, the private sector, in terms of these peri-urban areas. So we are targeting, particularly the beneficiaries are poor women and girls, certainly not only them, but equally vulnerable people, including the youths, widows, elderly, orphans, persons, and people living with HIV and AIDS. It is a challenge to you how you focus and how you stress that this is how my innovation will benefit the people we are targeting. It is entirely up to you. Next. So basically, in terms of the general context, that's where I end. I am now moving to the next part of my presentation, the governance. How do we ensure that our process is 100% transparent? And we treat everyone fairly. So we have a governance structure, what we call innovation grants governance structure. Number one, we have MCC, Millennium Challenge Cooperation. This is a US government agency. And the money we received, the government of Zambia received, the 355 million I mentioned, came through Millennium Challenge cooperation. Then we have MCA Zambia, Millennium Challenge Account Zambia. Millennium Challenge Account Zambia, what it means, we are basically a very independent company formed by the government of Zambia with the primary purpose to implement the project. Come 2018, the company will be no more. So, and it is our task that we ensure that it is transparent. Specifically for Innovation Grants Program, the grants director is the one who oversees all the processes going to around the Innovation Grants Program, and that is me at the moment. Apart from that, we have the Innovation Grants Program Manager, and that is the IGPM. This is a company, MCA Zambia contracted, and COWI, with just the purpose to assist MCA Zambia to administer the Innovation Grants Program. Again, we contracted this company in a very, very competitive way. There was no preference. Apart from that, we have the Investment Committee. The Investment Committee is a very important structure in Innovation Grants Program. It is comprised of independent people, organizations from the private sector. Even the selection was here, we looked at how do we balance. So we have representative from the private sector, banking institutions, from learning institutions, and certainly we have representatives from Lusaka City Council and the Lusaka Water and Sewerage Company. We call these two institutions as implementing entities. As you know, it is a project. Lusaka Water and Sewerage Company will be there until possibly the end of the world. Lusaka City Council, they will be there. And when we go, we hope these people can carry on the works, and we partner with them. Then we also have representatives from NGOs, international and local NGOs. They are all on the board, on the investment committee. These are the structures we work with as investment committee. I'll go a little bit into detail next. So in terms of what role do these governance structures they play? MCC, particularly, they oversee and conduct due diligence on the Innovation Grants Program, and they give a no objection for projects above $500,000. These MCC, they are in Washington, and we constantly work with them to ensure that, yes, it is 100% transparent, and they provide guidance to MCA Zambia, yes, this and this, and we work closely together with them. The next one, again, when we come up with an implementation plan, others they call it work plan, we share with them, we discuss. So they also make input into that one. They equally monitor and they evaluate the indicators, including financial. They also coordinate the independent evaluation of the IGP program. My friend here who is here from American Institute of Research, they are contracted by MCC, but we are working with them, particularly on IGP, so that we learn and we improve our performance, and possibly MCC may decide Zambia implemented this well, why not make it worldwide? Wherever we're having a compact across the globe, we give them. We have innovation grants. Next. So MCA Zambia, actually we provide overall management, and that is what I do. And we ensure transparency and competitive, and that the programs are demand driven. We also ensure financial and technical indicator reporting, and we also make and oversee the grantees. I know in the last one we gave some grantees, so we are actually on top of the things to see that they are implementing the projects successfully. And we plan and we monitor the progress. The next one is the investment committee. I talked about those ones, but that is what they do. Basically, they are the ones who award. The COWI people we engaged, they are not the ones who award. They do the processing administration. But it's this independent body who finally gives the award. Next, the other one is implementing entities. I talked about those ones, Lusaka Water and Lusaka City Council. They are critical partners, as I said, because they will always be there. And we are working closely with them. One of their jobs they do, one of their responsibilities is basically when we need technical staff in any area, we can ask them and they will give us that. For example, if we get a very strange proposal or concept note, and we look at ourselves, we say, okay, we don't have this technical expertise we need. We can go to Lusaka Water or to Lusaka City Council, and indeed COWI can source any other expert globally to be on that as we do the evaluations and the scoring. Next. So, yeah, the last one is the Innovation Grant Program Manager. It is COWI. I will invite my colleague Sandra, who is the team leader, to talk about the IGPM. Sandra. Thank you.
Good morning again. So I also am going to practice my church voice. Can you hear me in the back? Okay, good. Thank you very much. As Mr. Mwimba mentioned, COWI was contracted by MCA Zambia to manage the Innovation Grants Program. And that includes doing all of the logistical work as well as providing the expertise that will be used to score and assess your concept notes and, should you be successful, your proposal. And this is our team here. We have a project director who is in Denmark. COWI is a Danish consulting firm, and she works with us to oversee the program and ensure the quality of our own work. There's the team leader, who's your humble self. We have our deputy team leader, who is Joseph Munalula here. He's a qualified engineer with a lot of experience in water supply especially. We have a monitoring and evaluation specialist who is based in Germany. He was here to help us design the program for 5 months, and he maintains a link with the program and all of our developments. We have a financial management specialist, Henry, who is here, and you'll be hearing from him later on in the program. Our gender and social specialist, Nora, who is introduced, also she'll be speaking to you. Our environment and social specialist, who's Vitumelo, and we have a communication specialist, who's Julia, who opened the program for us. So all of these, just to go back, all of these people, plus the deputy team leader, are going to be scoring your concept notes when you submit them. And should you be successful, they'll be scoring and assessing your proposals. Okay, so you have all of this expertise behind it. The team leader is not scoring or assessing in this round because I'm the manager. So I get to oversee all of these people and make sure it all goes well and according to our operations manual. So next, please. So let's get right into the grant program. Who is eligible? Many of you will remember what I'm about to say from our first grant cycle, and I think we have at least 2 successful applicants here that you may want to talk to in the tea break. Ernest, are you here? I didn't hear you. There he is, yes. There's Ernest Chikwanda from MECB Consulting. He was a successful grant applicant, and we also have Claire. Are you here? Claire, who is from Wasaza, who is another successful applicant. So perhaps they'll be kind enough during the tea break to clue you in. But many things have changed for this second grant round. We have changed the evaluation criteria, and we have also changed some of our processes. So it's very important that you read the grants manual. As Mr. Mwimba mentioned, or Juliet mentioned, the grants manual is available on the MCA Zambia website, which is mcaz.gov.zm, so you can download it from there or read it, and each organization attending has been given a copy. Please read that. We ask you to certify that you have read it when you file your application. And as I said before, many things have changed. Eligibility has not changed. It's the private sector and partnership with the private sector. And that's a very broad tent. It's not just for-profit companies. It's for-profit companies, NGOs. Now, because of all of the processes going before, you'll have about a year and a quarter, 1.25 years to implement your project. Okay? So you would need to factor that in. Now, Mr. Mwimba mentioned the issue of sustainability. It's the part of the program's hope that you will continue on providing benefits from your project after the project is ended. But the main things that we agree that you're going to do with the grant money should be completed within 1.25 years of signing the grant agreement. Everything must be done, more or less, well, it must be done, not more or less, by February 2018. And after that, the Innovation Grants Program begins a closeout process. So that's your project completion would be by February of 2018. Okay, so these are our major steps. We screen, as I mentioned. We score next. Evaluation equals scoring and assessment. But we aren't going to come visit everybody in the concept note stage. Last round we got 103 concept note applications. It's simply impossible to assess people in the field. And plus, the whole point of the concept note stage is to give us your ideas. You have an idea for an innovation. You know maybe what your budget is. You know who you're going to reach and target your beneficiaries. But it certainly is not as detailed as a proposal. So the scoring is what will happen in the concept note stage. Now, we're going to look at this scoring a little bit more in depth. In the scoring, there are 10 criteria for concept notes. 5 of them are, quote, mandatory criteria. You must score 7 out of 10 points on each of those 5. And then in addition, you must score 65% overall. And if you're successful with that, then we will invite you to submit a proposal. And if you are not successful, we will notify you. If you are invited to submit a proposal, there will be a workshop in March. We'll really go into more detail about what's expected, especially on the financial and the monitoring and evaluation side. I think we'll be a little bit light on monitoring and evaluation in the concept note stage because we aren't asking you for your specific indicators at this point, but we will certainly ask you at the proposal stage. So, and then proposals would be due in mid-April if you're successful. Okay, who is on the technical evaluation panel? Okay, I've just been informed we need to be on time, so perhaps I'll speak more rapidly. Are you ready? Okay, who's on the technical evaluation panel? We have 6 to 7 people, probably 6 people from the Innovation Grants team, the COE team, and then MCA Zambia has the option of nominating a member to serve also. Let's go next. All right, what's an innovation? So we really, when we designed the program, we really did a lot of work on trying to define innovation. It's a bit difficult, as you can imagine, but we settled on this definition which came from academic literature. So innovation is a dynamic process that focuses on the creation and implementation of new or improved products and services, or new or improved processes that result in improvements in efficiency, effectiveness, quality, or social outcomes. I'll share with you that we were quite surprised, I suppose, in that you, the innovators, regarded, in many instances, simple provision of a service that wasn't there before as an innovation. And the program looked favorably on that because it had a very good social outcome of, for example, enhancing water supply services where there were none before. Okay? So that's a definition of innovation. Let's go on, Litu. Next. Okay, we have a problem statement for this grant round. And this echoes what Mr. Mwimba had showed you before. It's a little bit in reverse order. So financing, affordable financing came last, but in our specific problem statement for this round, we are looking for affordable household financing to support the Sanitation Connection Action Plan, which is called SCAP in Mtendere. This is a plan whereby a part of the MCA Zambia Compact is to have major infrastructure work in Mtendere. So they're going to put in a sewer line. And the Zambian government will help to connect households from their property to the main sewer line that's going in under the compact. But what about poor people who may not be able to afford to build some sanitary facilities, including a toilet or a lavatory? We are looking for innovative proposals for affordable household sanitation there. And on the website, there is a paper that gives some background into this SCAP program. So if any of you are from financial institutions, that's available there. And this comes a little bit in the area of sort of creative microfinancing for the bottom of the pyramid especially. We're also looking for sanitation improvement in urban areas. Water supply, again, a big issue here in Lusaka, as everywhere in the country with this drought that we're having. And then solid waste management. Under water supply, I should also mention that the call for proposals looks favorably on building capacity. If you have an innovative way of building capacity for household plumbing or building the understanding of people for how to do household plumbing or building capacities in that way, that's featured under the water supply in the call for proposals here. Okay, let's go on. So now we're going to review the application. And if you'll just give me a second, I'm going to get the actual application form up on the screen.
While he's doing that, do you have any quick question? Any quick one? Yes?
Yes, what's the geographical definition of Lusaka? You talked about Kaira, but is Lusaka province or?
Or it's Lusaka City. It's only in Lusaka City. Not Chongwe, not Lusaka province, only Lusaka City. Thank you for that. Not Kafue, no. It's only in Lusaka City. Any other question? Yes?
I looked about copies of
The presentations actually we post them on our website for everyone to know, because we know there are also other international organizations who have not been able to travel here. And some of the presentations we will put them as YouTube so that people are able to see. Yes?
Are there other programs for other towns in that program?
No. This is a compact agreed between the government of Zambia and the government of America. And at that time, back in 2010, 2009, when the negotiations started, they focused on in Lusaka. You never know, maybe the future compacts may come, which may encompass the entire country of places. Yes, please.
Yeah. My question is, how pro-poor is MCA itself in terms of evaluation and subsequent granting of funds? Because my experience is that the very micro organizations that probably represent the poor did not actually go through the first four, but larger corporations were awarded the first grant. So I would like to learn how pro-poor in the evaluation process MCA is itself. Second, how are the ideas of the applicants at any stage of proposal that do not make it to the grant stage? How are they protected? Thirdly, why are successful applicants not made public so that those that do not actually make it can learn from them? Thank you.
Okay. Before she comes, I can answer quickly. I'll start with the last one. The successful applicants, we make them public. They are equal on our MCS and our website. And we also at a grant signing ceremony. It was public event, and it was publicized in the newspapers as well as on TV, our local video. And the first one on pro-poor, we are indeed pro-poor, I would say so. That is the more reason we introduced in a small window, $100 to $100,000. It is to accommodate mostly smaller organizations. And I think the process of evaluation and all those, they are slightly flexible a little bit. You see, the example that might be asking them to contribute 15%. The large organizations, maybe we must promote that we're asking 25%. You can see the difference there. And also, I would like to insist this one. It's not about innovation grants program. It's not about giving money to the poor people. It's about the innovation that will benefit the poor people. That makes a difference. So even if the poor organization, it's a small organization, the innovation is good. I tell you, we'll work with those ones. We will not disqualify an organization because it's a small or it's poor. Our focus is the innovation. I know some of those we funded, I would call them small organizations. It's a small organization. And we are working with them to improve it, doing negotiations, we negotiated, and we are still working with them that they are successful. The other point was about protection of what?
How are the applicants' ideas of those that do not actually make it? How are they protected from the evaluation process? Like some ideas are not actually taken.
Oh, okay, I get you, yeah. No, we have a confidentiality agreement and what is the other one? All your submissions are highly confidential. What? Yes, so we don't share this one, they are all internal and we don't share with that organization. You will see the next application. I think we will talk about the other collaborating partners. We mentioned like the Coca-Cola Africa Foundation. And we are asking applicants to engage if they want their proposal to be considered by the Coca-Cola Africa Foundation. If they say yes, then we can share with that. Even with them, we have agreed 9 social agreements signed with them, completely binding, that they don't have to share those ideas with any other institution apart from the applicant and the MCA. So that's how we do it. We are very mindful, and the issues of patents and all those, we are very mindful of those. Okay, please, you can continue, sir.
Please clarify, are concepts by organizations outside of SADC?
No, concept notes that are targeting areas outside of Lusaka. No. As I said, this is a compact agreement between the government of Zambia and the government of America, and they are only targeting Lusaka City. And that is the limitation, the geographical boundary. It's only in Lusaka City. Thank you. Sandra.
Thank you, Ms. Mumba. I'm going to go quickly through the application form. We really tried to make this one self-explanatory, and you'll see it on the website. So I think there are very few things that I will have to explain. This time we tried to match the scoring to the question, okay? So you're going to see that answering this question will get you 5 points or 10 points or however much it is when we get to that portion. But we start off here in section 1 with basic information about the applicant, including if you can identify what type of organization you are. Those are one. If you're none of these, then you can identify what type of organization you are. And as we go further down the form, it's your postal address, your physical address, all of these kinds of, the description of your mission in a few words. What's the mission of your organization? And the 5 most important activities of your organization. Here we're asking you to identify the currency that you're using in your application. So we're not asking you to do any conversions here. Just, are you telling us it's in Kwacha or US dollars? If you do it in Kwacha, we'll do the conversion for you, and it will be converted, your budget in general, just for comparison purposes, is going to be converted at a Bank of Zambia what rate that's published on their website on the date of the concept note conversion. Okay, but we ask for general budget at concept note stage. We're not really getting into the nitty-gritty at concept note stage. Name of the contact person and some authorization. This authorization down here is what Mr. Mwimba spoke of. There's an organization called the Coca-Cola Africa Foundation that MCA Zambia and MCC have been working with, and they have requested to see ideas at both our concept note and proposal stage. So if we don't select your concept notes, if you're not invited to submit a proposal, would it be all right for us to pass your concept on to the Coca-Cola Africa Foundation? And if you tick yes, if you're not successful, we may share your idea or your concept note with the Coca-Cola Africa Foundation. That doesn't mean you're going to get a grant from them, but they would like to see if there's potential for them to fund projects that we, IGP, will not be funding, and requesting signature. So the second part of section 2 is the profile of your project. We would like to keep this quite brief and right to the point. Get right to what do you want to do with your project, okay? Want a title, a location. Please be as specific as you possibly can. I'm going to be operating in this ward and this ward, in this neighborhood, in this neighborhood. And what your main goal and your expected impact of the project are. We put a word limit on that because we got applications last time that talked about, my main goal is to bring peace and stability to Southern Africa. So, some people just really, in beautiful words, what evidence you can give that your project is targeted toward poor and vulnerable beneficiaries. So that's 10 points. That's quite weighty. And then we give you ideas, even in the question, of what kind of evidence that could be, okay? This is a mandatory question. You have to score 7 out of 10 on this one. How do you know if people are poor in the areas that you are working in? Where's the evidence of that? Nora is going to talk a little bit more about that when she talks about social and gender integration. But you should be aware that on the MCA Zambia website, underneath the Innovation Grants tab, there are several studies documenting poverty in Lusaka, even ward by ward, from data, Zambian government data and other data, okay? So you can look on that. That is there to help you with evidence of poverty, that your target is, you are targeting the poor and vulnerable. And then how your project demonstrates potential for effective management service provision, okay? How are you going to enhance service provision, and what are the benefits going to be? Income generation, health impacts, improved access, all of these benefits. You must tell us what do you think the benefit is going to be. And again, this is a mandatory one. You have to score 7 out of 10 here. We're going to have a review of all the scoring criteria together. Is your contribution to the budget 15%? Okay, here's an easy 10 points for you. If you did the sums up above and told us what grant amount you're requesting, how much you're putting in, if it's 15%, then you can repeat that information here. 10 points for you, okay? This is also a 7 out of 10 question. All right, what evidence are you going to give us that poor women, girls, youth, or other vulnerable populations are directly targeted as beneficiaries? Okay? Maybe your project is just directed at persons living with HIV/AIDS. Okay? Maybe you want to find a way to bring income to them. So what evidence are you going to supply to us that they will benefit? Maybe your project is just aimed at sanitation for girls in schools. Something like this, okay? So you can say, well, half the population of this school is girls, or you can say, we're aiming at an all-girls school. Give us the evidence, please, okay? And then how you intend to sustain the project, as Mr. Mwemba mentioned. What after the project's over, what are you going to do? Whether it has potential to be scaled up, okay? Maybe you've done something already and you'd really like to have it take off. Tell us how it's going to be scaled up and how you're going to approach this. And then we will, you supply us again the information that you've already told us about the project costs, the number of beneficiaries, and then we'll make a determination as to whether that's reasonable. You know, if you have a project that's 1.5 million, but you're reaching 10 beneficiaries, is that reasonable? I don't think so. You know, again, we're not focused on reaching 1.8 million beneficiaries, but we want to know that your cost is reasonable for the number of beneficiaries. How do we know that? We have 6 or 7 professionals who have a lot of experience with development projects, and they'll make that determination if you'll do the math for us. So I think this is the last question, or maybe second to last. How the project is technically feasible and appropriate for local conditions and context. Would you put something that requires 24/7 electricity in a compound? Probably not, given our current conditions. That might not be technically feasible. How is this technically feasible for local conditions? How are you going to overcome any limits there may be? And that's not to say, you know, I don't mean for you to use that specific example, because power may come back in the future. But we also don't want something that's terrifically high tech that requires a lot, let's say a lot of imported inputs. That wouldn't meet a criteria of being technically feasible and adapted to local conditions. Okay? And what's the link between what you're going to do and the benefits, right? I'm going to provide hand carts to CBOs in this area. So this link will provide income, it will provide benefits to households, etc., etc. We want to know how directly what you're going to do will provide those benefits. This is kind of a question which will evidence your thinking, okay, about how your project will provide those benefits. All right, I'm just going to whip through section 4 here. This asks you a little bit of financial information. I think Henry will cover some of this about what your budget is. So this is all we're asking at concept note stage. And let's go on to section 5. This is organizational information. This is information that we are asking you to supply. It's evidence of audited financial reports if you're a large organization, or for small grants, some kind of evidence that you have a cash book or can keep accounts. It's kind of a list. We want to have evidence of a signatory authority. So whoever is applying for this is authorized to apply. And then for all grants, this section 5.6, we're going to ask you to affirm the following: that you, the organization, are eligible, that you, put in the name of your organization, have a management structure that's appropriate staffing. This includes small organizations. You know, maybe you have a very capable CEO, you have somebody who's in charge of the money. That's fine, as long as it's appropriate. And that you have received a copy of the grant manual, and you understand it, and no condition exists that renders the organization ineligible for a grant directly or indirectly funded by the government of Zambia or the government of the United States. So you're not having a case in tax court. You are not dealing with you're not, selling, you're not selling shoes to North Korea, something like that, okay? And that you're not involved directly or indirectly in any form of child labor or human trafficking. So, and we ask you to undertake your observed law. So by inserting your name and signing, you're attesting to all of that. And I think that is it for the application form. Okay. So, yes, that's all. So let's take a few questions quickly. Time's not with us, and I do have a little bit more to get through. Are there any questions on the application form itself? Yes? Let's use it so everybody can hear.
I would like to find out for an organization that intends to apply, but it doesn't have the ability or the capacity to formulate the budget and the work plan, and it intends to affiliate with another organization. Should the names of both parties appear in the concept note or just one organization?
Whichever organization is applying for the grant and has the capacity to administrate the grant should be there. But you can clearly say in your application, we are partnering with such and such an organization to have this project. Okay, so it should be the one that has the capacity to administer the grant with all of the ideas. But clearly, put your partnership here.
My question is, do you fund projects that are specifically tailored towards awareness? Awareness campaigns and the like, because I feel like some of these problems is just a matter of mindset.
Programs that are targeting awareness campaign. Strictly speaking, if it is pure awareness, we are not ready. We want to act. but we encourage the applicants to include the budget on the awareness. So if the applicant says, no, for me, for this project to be successful, I need to create awareness and they cost that, and they approach you maybe as a company product, then that is fine. But purely awareness, no. We want action rather than the awareness, and it's part of it. So we are encouraging the awareness element to be embedded into the proposal.
The question is, if the applicant is applying for a small grant, is it still advisable to go for partnership?
Yes, absolutely. Because one thing we are saying is this, that the smaller organization, we know in Zambia the SMEs, they have challenges in accounting. And if they're able to partner with an organization which can help them, why not? Even if it's a small amount. We very much promote that and we are encouraging that.
Earlier you had mentioned about the people who were, the institutions that were successful, who had applied for the first grant in terms of the innovation grant that you had got for the first concept note. Is it that we only have 2 so far, like the ones that had applied previously, and they are the only ones who were successful?
No, I'll talk to you at the end of my presentation about the statistics of who was successful or not. Out of the first round, there were 5 grants awarded.
And the first question you asked was about the...
Oh, sorry.
So I'm not taking note of the questions. The first question you asked was about...
If an institution has got capacity.
Oh, yes. If an institution has the capacity, can they apply for small and large? Absolutely, yes. What we are focusing on is the innovation and in what area. And if they assess that this innovation is good, it will bring services we want for the people, poor people, vulnerable people, why not? Of course, we look at the capacity or the ability of that institution to manage the grants. If in our assessment, we see that this organization cannot manage the 2 grants, then possibly they can go through for 1.
Just before, maybe just an addition to that, I think in the grants manual, it's very clear that we only allow up to 2. So you can apply up to 2, and you can be, if you are successful, you can be awarded 2 if you have the capacity. But beyond 2, I think it's not allowed.
So for those of you who may not have heard Joseph, you may apply for 2 grants. Maybe a small or a large, or too small, or too large. I wouldn't think your chances are great with 2 large. Actually, that's close to $3 million if you go up to the limit. But anyway, you're free to apply for 2 grants.
Okay, my question's in section 5.4, evidence of compliance with NRA. It just has in brackets, includes letter of tax exemption. Does that mean we need to have tax exemption?
No, you do not need to have tax exemption.
Okay.
Okay. Innovation grants are that free, but we'll cover that if you get to the proposal stage. So there's a mechanism for the expenditures of the grants receiving that exemption. So.
At this stage, just apply, no. When we give you grants, you won't pay any VAT or any taxes on that. It's part of the agreement between the government of Zambia and the government of America.
Okay. You've already seen the questions on the application that will earn you points. But when the evaluators are going to sit down, they are going to look at all of these, okay? The questions on the application form are designed to be in harmony with this scoring criteria. So the criteria, we asked first about relevance, okay? Remember on the application form there was a relevance. How are you addressing the problem statement? That gets 5 points. You're demonstrating consultation, that gets 5 points. Okay. The way that this is structured is the first 5 questions on the application form are called mandatory questions. You must score a minimum of 7 out of 10 points on those questions, on every one of those 5 questions. Go ahead. Okay, how do you score that 7 out of 10? The evaluators, if you're excellent, if your answer is considered excellent, they'll give you 100% of the points. If it's good, they'll give 80% of the points. If it's fair, unfortunately, it's only 50% of the points. And if it's poor, 25% of the points. 0 if you don't respond. Okay? So on every single one of these first 5 questions, you must score 7 out of 10. We have tried to, both with this workshop and by providing some of the poverty data, to assist you with many of these. But on these first 5 questions, if you score 7 out of 10 on one of them, but 6 out of 10 on the next one, unfortunately you won't advance. Now, this is not one person grading you, okay? We have up to 6 or 7 people doing the scores, so it's your average score that matters from all of these people. So that's not to say if one gives you a fair score, maybe somebody else will give you an excellent score, okay? We do try, with our evaluators, we do try to sit down beforehand and say, this is the criteria and this is what it means, so that everybody gets on the same page. But these 5 are what they call mandatory questions. So is that clear? You must score 7 out of 10 of these. And when you see it on the application form, we've written clearly, you must score 7 out of 10 on this question. Okay, the next 5 questions, you could score whatever, okay? Again, it's excellent, good, fair, and poor. You could score whatever on these 5, and again, they are matched to the questions. Could you go back up to the previous slide? So, you must score 65 overall, okay? So you have to get 7 out of 10 on these and 65 overall to pass, okay? Let me go on and talk. This is, I think the next slide is the very last one. It's about the timeline. So we ask you to submit your concept notes by the 5th of February, and then by the 17th of March, you'll be notified whether you will be invited to submit proposals. Everybody will get a letter. Everybody who submits a concept note. Proposal workshop would be around the 23rd or 24th of March. Actually, probably those 2 dates. I think we have it over 2 days. 1 day for small grants, 1 day for large grants. Submission deadline for proposals is now scheduled for the 15th of April, 2016, with notification of awards coming in August. And then after that, there's a negotiation period, so that all contracts should be signed by October of 2016. So it's a 10-month process. And, really, it seems like a long time, but that's because we have demands on the quality of the process and fairness to all of the applicants. That's why if you're missing something, if you forgot something at proposal stage, why we give you a chance to rectify that. Okay, that takes up 2 weeks, as I was explaining before. But to be absolutely fair and thorough in our evaluations, and because negotiations take time. You don't want to be rushed in that. You want time to read that agreement. It's a 10-month process. So then you would have 1.25 years for implementation, as I mentioned before. Okay. I think that's the end. Oh, no, I wanted to give you some messages of hope here, in addition to having 2 grantees. These are the 5 grants that were awarded in the first round. You can see it's about the amount that was approved by the investment committee. We did have some negotiations afterwards, so it was lowered. The Water and Sanitation Association of Zambia, they're not the biggest organization in the world, but they scored the best, okay? And it was a small grant, so you can do the same. Better Now Finance Company is supplying some finance, affordable finance for water supply and sanitation. We have Solid Technology Systems, which is, this is a small or medium-sized Zambian company. They got a large grant to recycle plastic and to gather plastic in the areas. Zambian breweries, while they applied for a lot of money, in the end, it went more or less 50-50 in partnership with them for a solid waste project. And then MECB Consulting, which is working on water supply in Jack Compound, also not a large organization. So there is hope for many. I would add that last year we received 103 concept notes, and 61 of them, I believe, or 62, were invited to submit proposals. So that's quite a good percentage. You have a chance of that's a 65% pass rate. And then out of those 65 that were invited, 51 did submit proposals. So you see, it's quite a competitive program. And this year, it may be even a little bit more so because of those mandatory questions. The evaluation criteria have been changed. But definitely, there's the possibility of small organizations and small grants succeeding. And with that, I'll ask Mr. Mwimba to take over, and I believe we'll have some.
Could someone just assist us? Is there any difference between sex and gender? Is there a difference between sex and gender? Okay, who could kindly raise their hand and give us more light into that? Sir, from Catholic something, I saw you saying yes, yes, yes. Could you assist us? Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Do we agree? I expected the women to be the ones to answer that question, because we shall soon see why. Do we agree with that definition, or are they the same?
I strongly disagree.
Yes, sir. Why do you disagree? Please give us.
Because living sex has roles, as gender has.
Okay, I think he said biological definition. Is that what you said, sir?
Yes.
Yes, so sex has more to do with our biological makeup. Can we change our biological makeup in terms of sex? But are we able to change our gender roles as male and female? Very good. No wonder we can talk about it and hope for the better. So my name's Nora Chansai Doniges, was already mentioned by Juliet. And I'm here to talk about social and gender integration. Okay, so my presentation outline looks as follows. Firstly, I'm talking about why social and gender integration. I bet a few of us, although we may be smiling on the outside, in the inside we're wondering, why are you wasting our time? These gender issues, these women's rights, what are you talking about? Then next, we're going to look at the background to social and gender integration. And then thirdly, we are looking at social and gender assessment framework for the IGP. And then lastly, the innovation grant program design. Okay, so why are we talking about social and gender integration? Why should we spare a few minutes on this issue? So firstly, the IGP, do we all know what IGP stands for? Okay, so this side of the room is more awake than the other one. I can see they got themselves some popcorns. So IGP, as we heard before our break, stands for Innovation Grant Program. I think I need not say some of these terms in full as they've already been described in detail. So the IGP is focused on pro-poor service provision, including poor women, girls, vulnerable populations. So it has a deliberate focus on the poor. I remember Sandra and our director already looked at this. Then secondly, the concept note, which we are here to receive guideline for before you make your applications. The scoring criteria for the concept note gives a lot, actually. We should have put a lot or a heavy weight on this social and gender integration. So if we think it's nothing, now is the moment to change our thoughts, or else we may lose a lot of marks on that one. And then thirdly, Zambian policy and legal requirements demand that we integrate gender and also social issues in whatever development processes we are undertaking. And we shall see some guiding documents that state this. Then fourthly, the Millennium Challenge Corporation as well as MCA Zambia documents also require that we do integrate these cross-cutting social issues. Thank you. Just a little background. I think this is everyday situation, everyday work. What is the situation analysis? What is the status quo? When we talk of water and sanitation service provision, women and girls are the main providers of household water supply and sanitation. True or false, gentlemen? That true is very weak. True or false? True, huh? Most of us men are here seated shaking our heads because our women made sure we took a good bath, good hygiene conditions. True or false? In the house where there's no water supply, they had to go out and fetch that water. True or false? True. Yes. Then secondly, girls from poor families drop out of school to fetch water from long distances. This is a very real but very sad situation. And then absence of clean water and sanitation increases the risks of opportunistic infections and diarrhea diseases among people living with HIV and AIDS. I recall Sandra already mentioned that these are one of our vulnerable groups. So we make the situation worse for them by not supplying or providing clean treated water. Then women are rarely consulted and involved in planning and managing water and sanitation services. True or false, women?
True.
Thank you, Sandra. I hope the women in this room are not intimidated by the numbers. Okay, we move on. So going into our background, what is the national framework supporting the integration of these cross-cutting issues in Zambia? I'm sure we are all aware of the revised 6th National Development Plan, which was revised in 2014 when the new government came into power. So this expresses government's desire to improve social well-being of all Zambians. So we can take time to read what the SNDP says about social integration within the Zambian country. I won't go too much into detail, but this is just to highlight the backing legal documents that we have in Zambia. And then the National Water Policy, initially of 1994, then revised, has been 2012. It says the reason the National Water Policy was revised was to include cross-cutting issues such as gender, HIV, and AIDS that were initially left out, including environment. So if it can be one of the reasons for revising a national policy, that should tell you the importance of these issues. And thirdly, the Ministry of Local Government and Housing, which is responsible for urban and even rural water supply and sanitation services, recently came up with a gender strategy in the year 2015, last year. So this highlights and gives guidance on institutions that are responsible for the supply of these social services. And then the Ministry of Gender came into being in the year 2000 as a result of the need to ensure gender equality within the nation of Zambia. And this resulted also in the development of the National Gender Policy in 2000, later revised in 2014, which sets the mandate for all ministries within the country of Zambia to integrate gender in whatever work they are doing. So you would do yourself good to go online on our website. You find some of these documents, but these are national documents that you could just Google on internet and you'll find them. Then now going more specifically to MCC and MCA guiding documents. Firstly, there's the Millennium Challenge Cooperation Gender Policy, which expresses the need for gender equality within all compact programs. And these three documents are actually available on the website. There's also the MCC Gender Integration Guidelines, which is actually an operationalized version of the policy and highlights the steps and processes that a country should undertake in ensuring that the social and gender issues are taken into account. Then lastly, the MCA Zambia Social and Gender Integration Plan, also known as the SGIP, is the operational document here in Zambia for all the MCA work that is being undertaken. Okay, so what are the core objectives of the Innovation Grant Program in terms of social and gender assessment? Firstly, it aims at increasing and sustaining the poor's access to quality water and sanitation. Then next, it also aims at enhancing access by all beneficiaries to project benefits. All beneficiaries means people of all socio-economic classes. It therefore means that when you are developing your concept notes, you need to look at the entire population, the different classes of people in that population, based on wealth, based on gender, to ensure that they are all incorporated into your projects. And then expand opportunities for entrepreneurship and income generating activities related to water, sanitation, and drainage for both males and females. The key target group for the SGA are the poor. So a central concept for the SGA is the maximization of benefits and the minimization of risks to investments. Because for any work, any developmental work where you do not know the definition or characteristics of your population, you are bound to raise risks in those processes. Is that true? People are very quiet. I hope I'm not talking to myself. Are we together? Yes, we need to define our target population, right? In order for us to avoid risks or to undertake some kind of risk analysis, even before we begin our work. Then the principle of equity is also applied. Can anyone assist us? What is gender equity? Gender equity, what are we talking about? Or what's the difference between equality and equity? Yes? Is there a difference or is it one and the same?
There is a
Yes, sir.
equality is a 50-50 arrangement.
Yes.
And then equity depends on the circumstances of the grant. At least both parties must be, at least get some fair share.
Thank you very much, sir. I saw another hand. Okay, so equality is talking about equal access, equal opportunities for both males and females when we talk about development, when we talk about land distribution. However, equity looks at the different needs and interests that we have. It takes our situation into consideration. I'll give you an example of maybe my sister here and myself. If the grants director wanted to get us a similar dress, how many meters would he get for my sister? 1 meter. I can imagine what that dress would look like. And if you wanted to get the same dress for me, how many meters? Oh, that is stereotyping now. 6. Another one said 10. Anyway, since I would probably make a West African dress, I agree on that point. Yeah, but anyway, we know that the quantity of the material would be less for her than it would be for me, right? However, we are both getting the same dress and we want to get the same satisfaction from it. So although the quantity of material is different, the outcome or the result would be the same, right? So that is equity. Because she's smaller than me, she gets less material than I do. However, the result is the same dress. Is that clear? So that's the difference between equity. And we all know it's a global, well-known fact that which people are more disadvantaged. Is it the men or the women? Huh? Women or men? I'm not talking about GBV. I'm talking about general access. Since now we are being told the men are being battered and they can't speak out. Huh? We know that the women are the ones that are vulnerable, right? Less privileged, fewer in employment, fewer with qualifications, meaning we have to take affirmative action which is deliberately targeting those women. So that's how the principle of equity comes in, because the men may say, no, you go to a community, the men say, no, give us the same opportunities or employ the same number of women as you are employing men. Meanwhile, the women are already disadvantaged in that place and the men are at a higher level. So we need to remember that we're dealing with the principle of equity. And I have some examples pertaining to water supply and sanitation, which could be a bit of leakage maybe for some people who are focusing on this. For instance, when constructing sanitation facilities, talk of toilets or wash places, you could consider constructing more for males than females. Why? Because we know the hygiene needs also for male and female are different, right? Yes, so that is deliberate targeting. And when you're providing, or let me talk about the institutions that are responsible for tariffs. Maybe Lusaka Water, in line with the National Water and Sanitation Council, NWASCO, they could deliberately provide low billing tariffs for the low income groups, knowing that these people have less money than the rich or upper Mwamba that have more financial, or have a better financial standing. And deliberate strategies to increase female participation in water supply and sanitation services. Perhaps we've heard of Devolution Trust Fund, DTF, providing water to the urban poor. So they have a deliberate strategy where the vendors selling the water at the kiosks, they require that every water company that applies for that funding ensures that 50% of those vendors are women. Otherwise, they will not get the money for the projects. So these are just some ideas that you could take into consideration as you draw up your concepts. Okay, what is the IGP design? So social and gender inclusion is, as I said before, is given substantial weighting in the scoring criteria at both this stage, the concept note stage, as well as the project proposal stage that will come later on for those of us that are going that far. And the benefits for the poor and vulnerable populations, including girls and women, are a large part of the concept note scoring. The total scoring is 35% out of your 100%. So you can imagine if these are easy marks which you could go for and ensure that you get all the 35. So I'll look at the different components within the concept note application form, which add up to the 35%. So you are required to give evidence of targeting poor or vulnerable population. And this is a giveaway 10 points. What does evidence entail? Figures. What process did you use to collect that information? And is there evidence that your project is actually targeting these poor and vulnerable people? Then substantial benefits for the poor and vulnerable. Another 10 points. Are they really going to benefit from the project? Or is it the company applying that will benefit? Then evidence of targeting poor women. You can see the other one is talking about poor and vulnerable in general, but now specifically the poor women, that's another 5 points. And potential to scale to reach poor or vulnerable populations outside the scope of the project. This is another 10 points. If you check in brackets, it gives you guidance as to the section that is talking about each of those different criteria. So what are the sources of evidence that you need to include within your application? So for qualitative data, which is basically descriptive data, if you are applying for a project in Mutendere, of course there's need for you to go on the ground. And from observed behavior, you can check the characteristics. We're talking about roles, practices, what is going on within that compound. And then quantitative data, we have census. There's a lot of information in the 2010 census report, which is also appearing on our website. Then you could undertake a simple baseline survey to gather information. Household and poverty surveys, some have already been undertaken by CSO, other NGOs that are already operating in the sector. Already talked about your own data, and all these are found on the IGP website. And just to mention here that in some cases you may not even need to reinvent the wheel. You find that a lot of small studies and researches have been going on in these communities. It's a matter of taking interest. Lusaka City Council has some reports giving statistics. There are local leaders that are agents of the council in those communities called the Ward Development Committees. So those are people also that are custodians of information. So it's up to us to take a proactive step and go and look for that information. Then consultation, participatory processes such as focus group discussions. These are simple methods where you involve the recipients or the target groups themselves to obtain information. So partnership can improve your projects, and it is a requirement. Then at the proposal stage, what will be required of you in terms of social and gender integration? You will need to give profile of proposed project beneficiaries to be considered. So this will be a more descriptive analysis of your target group. And benefits to the poor or vulnerable for the proposal will comprise of 40% of the total marks. Then luckily, there's a poverty and gender assessment form in your grants manual, page 79, which can give you guidance in coming up with that profile, vulnerability, status, or profile of your community. Those are the issues that you need to give. However, you are not mandated to submit that form, right, Sandra?
Right.
Yes, you are not mandated or required to submit the poverty and gender assessment form. However, it's meant to just help you to compile your profile. And the key objective is that of provision of credible, convincing information on which the poverty or vulnerability characteristics will be assessed. So it's still about evidence, getting right information. Because if you give wrong information on something that you just came up with, it means the outcomes also will be wrong, or perhaps you'll be targeting a wrong population for a wrong outcome. The sources of evidence at the proposal stage, qualitative, poverty and vulnerability status of the planned project areas and beneficiaries. I'm very much aware that the council also has district development plans which highlight those features. Then the proportion of female beneficiaries and measures ensuring inclusion. Quantitative evidence, national and local data sources and surveys. We already mentioned some of them are on the website, and you yourselves need to get into contact with some implementing agencies that are undertaking a lot of studies. For example, the World Bank. They undertake so much research on this. Then evidence-based data sources. This could be from experts, local NGOs, CBOs, etc. For instance, we heard Wasaza and is it MECB? I'm sure they could give you guidance on how they went about collecting their information. So, thank you very much. That's my short presentation. Any questions, clarifications, complaints? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see a hand at the back. No, it's just somebody scratching their head. Okay, so next on the program, we have a presentation from our Environment and Social Protection specialist, Litumelo Matesivas.
Good morning once more, and welcome to the old and new family members of the IGP. We are family members. We are all a family because I'm so encouraged to see that even the people who did not make it last time are here. They haven't lost hope. So what I'm going to present today is something that the old members of the family have heard before, but I think there's nothing new. It's still the same old story, and I hope the new members also will get converted. So I'm looking at environment and social protection. I will look at why are we still talking about environment and social protection? What are the requirements at this point in time? This is the concept stage. And I'll just touch on some of the regulations and some of the requirements that MCC and MCA and IGP as a whole focuses on. Yeah, why? We want to, environment and social protection is one area that the client and everybody else and the grantees would want to focus on because we want to promote projects that are socially and environmentally sustainable. We do not want projects that are going to cause harm to the same environment that we want to promote, to improve. And we do not want projects that will also endanger the same people that we want, whose lives we want to improve. We do not want to cause any danger to the health of the people that are working for our companies. So safety of the health workers, of the workers that you are employing and the beneficiaries of your project is very cardinal to this project, because we do not want to go back again to a situation where we find ourselves just going around the circles and not achieving the goals that we have outlined in our own applications. So overall, we want to ensure that the resources that we are using, which is land, water, the air, and the human beings themselves are sustained. They are able to give us the services that we require. This is just to take you back to the science that you are all aware. I know that some of you here are environmental specialists. Some of you have already, at some point, undertaken environmental assessments. You have acquired licenses from different organizations like ZEMA and gotten water rights. So we know that some of these projects that we are going to undertake under this sector have accompanying environmental risks and impacts that I think we need to mitigate and be aware of. If we are not aware of, we have legislation that is going to direct us to these different actions that we are supposed to be undertaking. So typically, projects like the liquid waste and solid waste projects will be accompanied by pollution, air, water, soil, noise pollution, destruction of vegetation, in that you need to clear at times for you to, for example, put up a site where you want to heap your waste. There's also unsafe disposal of liquid and solid waste, and also at times we do handle hazardous waste. So this is just a summary. We're also talking about the unsafe conditions. This is real because just in the last grant cycle, when we went around visiting some of our potential grantees, the situation in some cases, I would say, was really pathetic. The workers were exposed to conditions that I think outrightly you would not even allow the grantee to proceed. But I think this is a learning process where we say, no, I think this has to be taken care of. Because within this project, we do not want to eliminate projects just because they have subsequent environmental impacts that are so significant, negatively significant. We want to promote the idea and see how we are going to mitigate some of these impacts and risks that are coming out of the projects. We also emphasize that we want to ensure that there's equality. I think Nora has informed us about the gender issues. We are also focusing on those ones, even on the environmental side. We are also looking at deterring projects that will promote or use child labor. There is a clear definition of who is a child in our legislation. And normally there's a thin line between you teaching a child to do something or abusing the child's labor. So luckily under the IGP, we are guided by national and international laws and regulations that we hope the grantees, not we hope, that we wish the grantees would comply with. These are some of the laws that are made by ourselves, by our own governments, and some that are borrowed because we want to ensure that we are also practicing some internationally accepted practices. So at this stage, there's really very little that you have to do on the environmental side at this stage, because as we were going through the application the forms and also the criteria, you didn't see environment and the social requirements popping up in a big way. But at this stage, we just want to make sure that you are aware that whatever project you're coming up with, look at the window of environment and social issues that will come out. It should be at the back of your mind. Do not be scared if you think this is going to produce something that is really significantly negative and Sandra and the group are going to throw out my application. What we are interested in is your innovation, because there can also be innovation in the way you're going to mitigate the social and environmental issues. So that's also an innovation that we'll be looking out for. So at this stage, at the concept note stage, we are just screening the projects, that's looking at as to whether they're eligible or not eligible. In the grants manual, if you refer to pages 147 to 150, there is Annex 2, page 147 to 150. There's a whole list, there's a whole catalog of projects that would not allow you or permit you to even start thinking of. So if you remain within the limits of what is acceptable or what projects are allowed, you are free to do. You can just go beyond the box and come up with something that you think is innovative. So since you've made an effort to come here, I think it will just be wise that you don't even try to think about those non-eligible projects. Just go for something that is eligible. That was the concept stage. So that's the only requirement at that stage. This is just some of the things that we'll be looking out to when we now start looking at your detailed proposal. Why? Because this is at the stage at which you have unveiled your idea, you have explained clearly where you're going to implement your activity, you have gone into details to explain to us what your activity is. There are indicators, there's a logic to it. So at this point, we would be aware at the proposal stage would have more information to start screening you on the environmental and social side. So some of the legislation that I've mentioned here are things that I think that you know of, and these are pieces of legislation that are guarding the environmental management sector in this country. So we have the Environmental Management Act of 2011. We have the EIA, although nowadays we now call it ESIA. These regulations are still in existence and they're still valid. These are some things that you need to look at. We have the Environmental Management Licensing Regulations and specific regulations on water, effluent, air, noise, pesticides. So we have all these pieces. Environment is normally too legalistic. Some people complain. But these are things that we've developed because we want to protect ourselves and the environment that is not talking to us. Can you move? So those will be critical at the proposal stage. There is also other legislation that you need to be aware of. We have the Water and Sanitation Act. We have the Water Resources Management Act, which talks about water rights and all. Importantly, we have the Occupation Health and Safety Act, the thing that we need to also look at, especially that we are emphasizing on the health and safety of the workers and also the beneficiaries. So there's many other legislation. Those of you who have done environmental assessments would know that it's a whole list of legislation that we normally look at. But this is really at the proposal stage. And as applicants, you'll be advised of what to do. You need not be a lawyer, you need not be an environmental specialist. Some people will do the work for you. Yeah, these are also the MCC guidelines that we need to look at. So this, again, will be at the proposal stage. Is another slide? Yeah. So at the proposal stage, also we'll have a detailed environmental assessments where we are assessing, looking at your project or concept, your idea, and then we'll advise as to whether you need an EPB, an environmental project brief, or you need to prepare a detailed environmental social impact assessment, or you just need to get in some licenses from different institutions that guard this sector. One issue that came up in the last cycle and that most people are so scared of is the part where we are saying these environmental assessments, especially the EPBs and the ESA, will need to be financed by yourselves. We are mindful that these are quite expensive and also need a lot of time at times to undertake, chewing into your implementation period. But we do urge that for those who are already doing things, who are coming up with projects that would need an ESIA, for instance, would have one that is already undertaken. If they have one that is already undertaken but still valid according to ZEMA, they can submit. But from our experience, from the grantees that we have right now, none of them is doing the ESIA. Most of them are doing EPBs, and these are normally shorter, and you get somebody and could be a bit cheaper. But what we emphasize is that this is your own contribution, and it will be part of that 15% and 20% cost sharing that Sandra talked about. So for some of you who know these issues very well and want everybody to know, you can even put it in your budget so that you reflect to show us that you know that maybe there could be need for an EPB or an ESIA. But don't worry, that is at the proposal stage. At the concept note stage, just look at those pages, read through the operations manual, the grants manual, and just stay away from those projects that are not eligible because of their significant negative impacts that we might get from them. Thank you. Any questions? Any questions? Yes.
During our research, for instance, after doing the research and then submission of the proposal, let's say to that area or in my area, the government also has done that assessment, and then you need to come back to me before awarding anything. Now, how will you compare notes if that area has been already assessed by the government and the government will implement, will do that project? And then also I come in with my proposal. How will you do it?
Can you be a bit clear again when the government, you are doing something together with the government or the government has already implemented that particular project?
It's different.
It's different.
Yes.
Normally the rules with ZEMA is that they are looking at each project case by case. So whatever idea you're going to have, it might, at times it might not even be, it might be the same as the one that the government has done or somebody else has done, but it also depends on the time that you're doing it and also the investments that you have. So we are treating each project as an individual project. I can give you an example. Right now, under the compact, this is the MCA, the larger infrastructure program. They did EIAs for ESIAs for water supply, for sanitation, and for drainage. And when we went to ZEMA, we said, since they did this already for Lusaka, can the IGP projects be covered under that so that they only produce environmental and social management plans? They told us no. You need to do, each project will have to be assessed individually.
So I'll just go over what we are asking for in the concept note application form. We're asking for an estimated overall budget by year or by period. Also very, very basic information on your financial management system, if you have any. Your fiscal or financial year end, and whether you have a bank account. And then there's also information required on the cost sharing aspect, which we shall see on the slides that are following. So just taking you through the concept note application form, the areas or the parts of the form that deal with financial management are here. One, we are asking for you to state the currency in which you're making the application, because we have two currencies that are allowed under this program, and that is either Zambian kwacha or US dollar. It's up to you to choose in which currency you would like to request the funding in. And this can be found under section 1.6 of the application form, which on your grants manual, is on page 50. You can just take note of that. Further, we are asking you to give us the amount of funding that you are requesting from the program. And this is in section 2.5 of the application form, which is grants manual, page 52. Now it's important, and we had a few issues regarding what we mean by grant amount, for instance, or project cost. We have been very, very specific this time. Wherever we talk of grant amount, we're talking of the amount you're applying for, which excludes your contribution to the project budget. So anywhere you find grant amount or grant, just bear in mind that we are talking about the amount you are requesting from the program. Okay, please just be clear on that one. Because the grant amount and the cost sharing amount, which is also under 2.6, which is under 2.6 on page 52, the same page. This and this together constitute the total project cost, which in the form is 2.7, and in the grants manual it's on page 53. It actually just overlaps into the next page. Okay. So please bear in mind, grant amount or grant, cost sharing element or co-funding, and then the total project cost. And then we are requesting that you make a calculation of your cost sharing divided into the non-percentage cost. This one is not the grant amount, or rather the cost sharing over the total project. No, it's the cost sharing element divided by the amount that you are requesting. Okay, this is I think this was one of the areas which in the last grant cycle, I think we had situations where the calculation was that into the total project cost. So this time it's clearly the division, I mean the cost sharing amount into the grant amount, okay? Which to some extent actually lowers the element of your cost sharing. Okay. Now I make mention of this on contribution because here I'm making it a point because it comes in as a scoring question. I think if you listen to Sandra, she did say, once you've achieved that percentage, in the criteria there is a question there. And if you've achieved the 15%, you get full 10 points. So it's somewhere, it's a part where you make very, very easy points in your application. It's a straightforward 10 marks. Okay. So, explain again. Yes. You can explain again. We didn't get it. Okay. You didn't get this, or you didn't get the whole calculation. Okay. Too much division. Now you see. Okay. Should I go back to this element? Okay. I suppose I think it's important. Yeah. This is what you are asking the program to fund you, okay? And that's the grant amount or amount of funding requested from IGP, okay? That's what you want. But there is an element which is expected for you to contribute, okay? And for small grants, it's 15%. Or should I say at least 15%. And for the large grants, at least 25%. Okay. So, the 15%, the calculation is the amount that you will make a contribution of, divided by the amount of funding you are requesting from the program. Okay. In other words, it's this divided by that. Okay. 15%. Well, it's a requirement. Why do you say why? We want you to. I mean, this is a competitive and the private sector driven program, and I think it has been explained why we want you to make a contribution towards the project. I don't know if that is in doubt or it's in dispute, but it's a requirement of the project.
Mr. Ravina, let me just clarify.
Yes.
For example, if you want to get 100 kwacha,
yes,
is it going to be 150 or is it going to be 75 and 50?
No. Okay. If you are requesting for 100 kwacha from the project,
That's a total cost.
You see, so that, no, that's why I'm saying don't go into total cost, because if you start to go into that, you run into this problem of because what you are now saying, if it's of the total cost, the percentage actually changes. What you need to be mindful of, how much do you want from the grant, or or let's maybe there's another way, because one of these will be, one is if you are contributing, if you want a grant of 100, okay, 100,000, okay, your contribution will be 15,000, okay, 15 over 100. But I think you are looking at it from the total project first, in which case you're going to have an 85 and then 15 to make 100%. But that becomes another calculation, and it could cause a bit of confusion. So I think you should be a little bit more careful. But yeah. Okay. Listen.
Okay, I think it is very simple. I think it is like this. No, let us make it much more simpler. Let us say you want $100,000 from MZA Zambia. So 15% of 100,000, what is how much? And that is your contribution.
So you get 85?
No. You get 115 in total. That will be your project cost. Yeah. Yes. It will be 115 in total in that case.
You see, the example is 100,000.
Then it doesn't agree with what you're discussing.
Okay. Just a moment. Let me.
With the amount. What you are trying to say at first, you are trying to say that, for example, as the grant amount that you are going to apply for is $85,000.
Yes.
And then the amount that we think that our co-sharing will be, let me say it's $10,000. Then you are saying we divide $10,000 with that amount.
Which one? Into the grant,
into the amount,
okay.
into the 85.
Okay.
That's what you are saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, that's correct, in the sense that, you see, if your total project cost is 100, like you say, okay, it's 100, all right, that's total, and you're saying
and you also apply.
Yeah, but 15. If 15% is your cost sharing, it won't be only 100, because just a moment, I think.
What you're saying here is, when somebody applies for 100,000, and then if they should put up 15%,
right,
which is the 15,000
of the grant, yes.
In that contribution of his, the question which I think a lot are asking is, do you deduct it from the 100,000 or you add it to the 100?
You add it to the 100.
Yes, but what you are saying is,
You are saying divide.
So what you are supposed to say is that 15,000 is going to be included in the 100,000 and you access 150.
No.
Or is it that you supply has less 50,000?
I think what you're saying is, yes, what is the contribution in that sense? Yeah. Okay.
It's not a contribution.
Yes, not stand right.
Maybe I think this thing is confusing a lot of people. Last time, let me talk about what is happening now. Can we have one meeting? One meeting, please. If we are going to get clarification here, can we have one meeting?
Yes.
Now, this is how we understand it. You are applying to us. You want $100,000. Okay. Now we are asking you in turn to say, provide 15% of this 100,000 you are asking. Provide that yourself. That is 100,000. We're not going to deduct anything from you. We are giving you that 100,000. Then we are requesting you to give us 15% of that 100,000 to make a total. So 100 plus 15, how much does it come to?
150.
Yes, so that's the total. That's the total project
budget. Deduct it. The question is, do we pay that to you?
No.
We don't. So meaning 115 is not correct.
No, 115 is correct because that 15%
makes the total project.
Can we have one meeting? Can we have one meeting? That 15%, you are supposed to reflect it in your budget. You reflect that 15%, that component of 15% in your budget. So the total project budget now becomes 100 plus 15. That's 115. So we are not deducting it from the total project budget.
Yes. But again, you have to divide it.
No, the division comes like this. Madam, can we be clear? Can we be clear? The percentage comes in here. You are applying for $100,000. You are going to put 15,000 is a minimum, by the way. So you may decide to say, I'm going to put in 25,000. Okay? From your own calculations, from your own activities that you want to be covered, besides the 100,000 that we are giving you. You're saying, okay, I'm going to give 25,000. 25,000 divided by 100 times 100. How much does that come? 25%. So that would be your cost sharing component. So 15% is a minimum. 15% is a minimum. So if you give us 14.9, we will not accept it. That means you get a 0 on that mandatory question.
Comes in when we want to find the percentage.
That's all.
Yeah.
Yes.
Find the total.
That's
where the mistake is.
No, there's no mistake.
The way it has
Their
been
point.
put to us.
Yeah.
The division is to get the not to get
Now, one aspect that's important for you as you think through your budget is what costs are allowable under the program and what costs are not allowable. There's a whole listing of costs that are not allowed and those that are allowed in the grants manual. We'll come to that. But just to mention, we talk of project-specific purchases or procurements, materials, supplies, machinery, equipment, and all that, workshops. These are just some major allowable costs. There are more. In-country travel and communication costs, and this is included because clearly foreign travel is not allowed under the IGP. So then we have technical assistance, consultancies, and the like, as long as it is directly related to the project, is allowed. And here, costs of baseline and final social, economic, or project benefit related assessments, these are allowed under the project. They've been specified clearly this time, unlike last time. It's very, very specifically allowed for those. Okay, now here's an area which usually brings a little bit of confusion. What constitutes maybe administrative expenses or otherwise? And we shall deal with this, I think, as we go to proposal stage, because there was a percentage ceiling of 15% on administrative costs, but I will not deal so much with that. I just want to mention that if you are employing people specifically for the project, okay, that their salaries or their emoluments are wholly allowed, because those will be considered direct costs to the project. However, you may have, and this is in kind, you may have attributable salaries or the like of, say, if you are the head of this project or the project manager or maybe managing director, make an estimate of the time that will be spent on this project and calculate from the overall salary. That percentage of time will be considered as part of your contribution. So any of these members of staff who might be attached to the project or will be doing part of will be spending part of their time on the project, you make that sort of calculation and attribute that salary or attribute that cost to the project as in-kind contribution. And I'm sure this is where you can take advantage of this issue of coming up to 15%. Now, okay. Can we proceed? Okay. This last point here. Another one on the issue of administrative costs. We're saying these are permitted as in-kind contributions. But I think what we should bear in mind, the important thing is you want to allocate your contribution and make that 15% that you need. And most likely, in terms of the administrative expenses, you'd like to put a lot of that administrative cost into that 15%. Okay? But that does not mean that if you have got rentals to pay, it does not mean that they cannot be charged to the project. But I'm sure for you to make that 15% contribution, a lot of that would most likely come from your overheads in order to meet your 15%. I'm saying this because we are saying are permitted as in-kind contributions. But, like I've just mentioned, it doesn't mean that these costs cannot be charged to the project. But I think normally, under normal circumstances, you would like to cover this first from the administrative, or rather your own contribution, before you can consider actually charging to the project. And when you make that 15%, rentals and things like that are related to the projects, though they are administrative and can be charged accordingly. Now, major unallowable costs, I think these are self-explanatory. There was one question that arose on alcohol. I think somebody said, suppose you have a launch or something like that, and wouldn't alcohol be entertained? I don't think, well, anything to do with alcohol, if it's presented as such, as part of your costs, definitely will not be allowed. And now, looking at the proposal stage and beyond, just to get you to have an idea about what to expect if you go through the concept note stage. We will require more detailed financial statements, okay? But again here, I wouldn't like people to get very worried and think that this will be such an onerous requirement. But the information we'll require will be a bit more than just the basic, whether you have a bank account or otherwise. How are you keeping your records? You know, how can you improve on your record keeping? And I think we went into that detail earlier. Then there is a fiduciary risk assessment, which we shall conduct when you are selected at the proposal stage. And this is a field visit to your premises or wherever you'll be conducting business, to then just sort of interact with you on how your financial management is arranged. This will be an interactive process. We have a questionnaire which you first fill in, and then we would like to test the answers against what is on the ground. And you are scored on this. You are scored. We have a template where we score on the fiduciary risk. And again, let me mention that does not mean that if your score is not that high, that your innovation will automatically fall off. No, no, no. If the innovation is good, you would still go through, but it gives us an indication as to what sort of level of risk we should attach to the funding and how we should therefore monitor, or mitigate that risk. So this is something that will help us make an assessment of your capacity, and then we can get into a dialogue. We shall get into a dialogue as to how we can mitigate that risk of the funds being misapplied or whatever, misappropriated or whatever term you want to use. And after the fiduciary risk and following the award of contract of grant by the investment committee, you go into some negotiations which will result in a final grant agreement being signed. So this is the next stage that you are likely to come about. And then another mention here is that we will require, for those who are successful, that they will open, and this is a definite requirement, you'll be required to open a bank account specifically for the grant, okay? Specifically for the grant. We do not allow commingling of funds with your existing accounts or other project accounts. That is a requirement, and without it, we cannot proceed. The modality of grant disbursement is the one of quarterly payments, and the first one is made in advance, as it were. But it's against that disbursement that we will request some reports from you, which would trigger, once approved, would trigger the next disbursement. And so the cycle will be in that manner. So your first disbursement will be based on your first quarterly milestones, the budgets with their milestones, and then we would advance you the amount of money, and from that we shall then monitor the progress of the projects vis-a-vis the financing, and then accordingly make adjustments for future future disbursements. But that is, as I said, down the road. At the very minimum, we will expect monthly cash books to be kept, okay, and bank reconciliations to be prepared on a monthly basis. That's really at the minimum of your accounting. But as I said, if you're not doing this, we can still sort of find a way to assist you in ensuring that you'll be able to achieve this. And then on procurements, at this point, we won't go into details of procurements, but we're just flagging you to the fact that procurements, the model by default is that you do your own procurements. But if you face challenges, you'll be assisted by the program. But the default is that the grantee will do their own procurements. I think this is where we end up. Any more questions? Yes, please.
The first one is on foreign travel not allowed in the IGP.
Yes.
Are you saying if I incur costs, maybe bringing equipment and other logistical costs, clearing fees and the like, that cannot be considered as part of my contribution?
Clearing costs, or what I say? Because you've brought two things there. You've mentioned foreign travel, and then the clearing costs.
I mean, okay, foreign travel, like in the form of maybe the cost that I may incur, bringing in transportation costs, for example.
Okay. You mean where you travel outside to bring in this?
I mean, not necessarily travel, but hire, some transport company to bring in.
No, those are direct costs. Those are straight project cost. We're talking about you flying
Individual,
out
personal
as individuals.
travel.
No, all those costs relating to you're bringing in the machinery,
It's okay.
everything, including the insurances,
It's okay.
will be borne by the project.
And the other one is just
But you can choose to contribute towards that in cash.
The other one is just a clarification on the quarterly disbursements in advance. I think that the amount requested for will be given to you quarterly, will be broken down into and quarterly, or it will not come as a lump sum.
It will be given to you quarterly based on the activities that you intend to conduct during that quarter, the first quarter. But against that will be your reporting. And after the reporting, the next disbursement will be done. Yes?
Clarification on the same quarter disbursements.
Yes.
Are you saying that we'll be giving out, let's say, every 3 months, or it's just in 4 installments, whatever the period is?
No. For the first 3 months, the quota is calculated in calendar terms.
Now, suppose my project is not going to last for the whole year.
Yeah.
How am I going to disperse the amounts?
Okay, say it will last how many months?
Let's say I'm just running a project for 6 months.
Okay. 6 months, then you break it in 3 and 3. But if it's maybe 7 months or what, you could probably say 3, 3, and 1 to make the 7.
What is happening now to the grantees? We have dispersed funds. We know they haven't implemented, so we negotiated to start with them what they need to start with. And that is what we disperse. We don't divide it based that it's 4 quarters per quarter. It's not. It is activity-based budget. So the first disbursement could be substantial. Then you report based on the other activities for the other ones to be dispersed.
If, for instance, you are getting machinery in, obviously you require that disbursement to be that much more than maybe the subsequent ones, because you're going to incur that cost at the beginning of the project. And out there,
yeah. I'm just asking for clarification on the, for large grants, only annual audited financial reports?
Yes.
That's required in the concept note or for the proposal?
Even in the concept note. Okay. Yes, just attach your recently audited accounts.
Yeah, I remembered earlier on you said in terms of the grants on this project, everything is tax exempt. But remember that there will be members of staff, maybe on a certain grant that we request from Millennium Challenge account. So those people will be on the payroll, so they will be taxed in terms of pay as you earn and also NAPSA.
Pay as you earn, NAPSA, those are statutory requirements, and they are being taxed in the individual's hands. So,
and then the other one I wanted to find out was in terms of procurement. Does MCA defines maybe the level of procurement that we can procure anything? There is no any limit to say out of so much percent, if any procurement exceeds so much percent, we should seek approval from MCA, or is everything we can just procure on our own without any limit?
That detail, in fact, will be handled on a case-by-case basis, and depending on even the capacities and issues like that. So when you do submit your procurement plan, there may be a necessity for MCAs and to assist in doing part of the procurement.
Currently, what is prevailing, we have some limits. If you are a small applicant, you are procuring one single item costing over 20,000. You can opt in as MCA. For large grants, it's $200,000. Above that, we can opt in. So there are some exceptions, as he said. We talk to each one, and also we assess how complex is the procurement.
If you look at the financial management manual on procurement, that some of those limits are there. But generally, we're saying by the default models that
I think we are going too much ahead. For those who will be successful, we will have a workshop on all those issues again. The lady here was.
Also, maybe just before you close, I wanted to say something about some of our organizations that are right in the field, that have been in the field for some time, and they've had this experience. What I've noticed today is that, yes, there were these 5 organizations that were funded, and there are some of us who are already in the field who really needed that money to continue with the activities that we're doing. We've seen organizations that have come in, they don't even know where to start from. If some would know, but they're taking all this time to acquaint themselves with the compounds where they're getting into. So I just wanted to say something about, I don't know, in your evaluations, in your considerations, in all the considerations that you're looking at, to look at who is there, who is doing what. Certainly, yes, they have money to contribute, or they have whatever criteria you follow to give them that money. They have money, we don't have money, or we have little money, and we cannot meet some of these things. There were the issues of, for example, you say the capacity building, which was said even last time. If you saw some pros in us to say, well, you're weak in this, maybe can you put up a plan how you're going to work on this? Well, certainly we did put up really good proposals to us, because this is what we wanted to do, this is what is going on in the field, and we wanted to continue and set an impact in the community. Right now, many of those 5, I've not even met them anywhere in the compounds. I've heard about one of them, yeah, but this is just something I wish I could just bring to the table to note.
That's I think.
No, we appreciate your comment. We have taken note of that. We have taken note of that. And we are actually encouraging the recipients to see how best they can collaborate with organizations already on the ground working there. We have taken note of that.
In terms of, for example, we have funded the quota, first milestone we've met. In terms of retiring back so that we can be funded for the next milestone, what documentation does the grant need?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Those questions we will nicely and carefully comprehensive address them when you are there. We have a workshop, a training workshop before we disperse the funds, where we go into such kind of details.
Yes, sir. The program is very good. Now, not just to be cleared, because when the funded are done, the fundings are done, and we can't run out of it. There must be maybe you would see something like corruption in there, and someone swindling that money and then disappears. There's supposed to be a caution. How do you handle such cases?
You mean they get to the budget for the first quote and disappear?
And disappears.
Wow,
yeah.
Because transparency should be there.
Yeah.
How else can you mitigate that? Do you
we are
say,
on different minds.
Yeah, I know, but my question is, what? Okay, are you asking about what sort of safeguards we would have against that sort of? No, that is one of the risks that we need to manage ourselves. It's really.
It's a risk, and maybe an addition to that. We are handling government money, and we have a mandate to protect the government money. We do what we call a search. Others they call it terror search and others. And anyone who is shortlisted on the World Bank, US government, Department of Justice, we don't give money to those. If you're one of your people is found on that list, those who are blacklisted, that these are, how you say, brutal word, crooks. Yes. No room, that organization will not fund them. It's part and parcel of risking the money, managing the risk. But at the same time, we are very, very cautious whom we give funding. We do also our own assessment. But the risk still remains. But so far, those we have given, we are very much satisfied.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I have 2 questions. The first one is, what is the weighted value of the financial component against the innovativeness of an organization that sends in an application in the evaluation and assessment process. The second question is, how transparent is your COWI and MCA in the awarding of such contract, grants?
Okay.
Is there an independent institution that all of us that are here can trust that you will be representing us? What is the government?
I'll answer that. Is it the first one? Which was the waiting?
Yes, because I questioned the waiting because in our previous experience, this came out, it took more time above any other sector.
No. You see, if you notice, even the evaluation criteria, you won't find any question that really places weight on financial management per se. You won't. And the truth of the matter is, what we're saying.
2 hours against the other.
2 hours of doing what?
In our finance department, it took 2 hours.
To do what?
Going through the procedures.
Are you talking, was that at the fiduciary assessment level?
No.
Which one are you talking about?
We are weighted values against all other environment, data, and all those other evaluation criteria.
The reason
we don't know how it is done now.
No. The important thing is the innovation, more than anything. And when you talk of finance, I can assure you, the assessment is made in order to see what measures can be taken to assist you. As I said, the financial management does not have its own particular scoring criteria. We could have actually put that in, but it would have disadvantaged a lot of applicants. So it doesn't really appear. But those questions did come. Yes, I had detailed assessment questions and so on, and it was all meant to see where we can actually mitigate the risks, and not much more than that. It did not score anything in terms of our evaluation.
Sorry, Andrew. I think if you have further questions, you come and see me.
Yes.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. At the moment, our process at this stage, the person you can see, it is me. We do not encourage or allow those who are potential applicants to interact with COWI. No. You see me, I'm not part of the tape, and I explain the process. So please make an appointment. I'm in the office, you can come and see me, we can discuss. Maybe for the sake of time, sir, we are behind time. Can we move on to... Can you come and see me, we'll see that we discuss. Can we move on to another presentation very quickly, because we still have the M&E. We will be quite brief again, there isn't much at concept note. He was not here, I think, when we were doing the introduction. Okay? No. It is Mr. Samuel Mwanangombe. He's from MCA Zambia. He's the M&E specialist.
Okay, so before Samuel just starts, we are going to distribute the evaluation form. So she's coming around and she'll just leave one form with everybody. And it's a very simple form for you to fill. So please ensure that you do not leave here without filling this in. Okay.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll try and run quickly, I think, for the presentation. I hope people will get something out of it. The outline of the presentation, I'll talk about the background on M&E, how it's quite important as MCA Zambia, the way we our approach to M&D. Then I'll talk about the M&D in the concept note process, as well as how it's reflected in terms of the application, and also the evaluation criteria, and also looking forward, what do we expect on M&D issues? Yeah. As we are aware, the IGPM is under the umbrella of the MCA Zambia Compact, and the Compact has got a monitoring and evaluation plan. And IGPM, it has also an M&D plan, which feeds into the Compact. Even us, as we are applying, as potential applicants, whatever projects we are going to develop, they have to contribute towards the overall M&D plan for the Compact, or for the Compact. So, however, at concept note, we are trying to keep all the requirements at the minimum. There's not very much things to do at the concept note level. But the M&D issues, they play quite a greater role for the overall project or project cycle, from the time we are thinking about our project now at concept level until we end our projects, if at all we'll be successful. So the M&D component will play a very key role throughout the entire process. So as we can see from this diagram here, you can see that the monitoring and evaluation and control component is not maybe at any stage that we have put it. It's covering the whole process. From the time we identify our project, by the time we are thinking of our project, we have to have it behind our mind that how are we going to monitor this project? How are we going to evaluate this project? So by the time we are starting to think about our project, we should also be thinking about monitoring and evaluation. It's not something that you start thinking when you start implementing, no. You start thinking about it when you're trying to identify your projects, when you're conceiving your projects. That's when we have to also start looking at the monitoring and evaluation. It's a process that runs throughout the project until you transition or until the project ends. So normally people try to run away from monitoring and evaluation. I think it's a bottleneck. People say what cannot be measured cannot be controlled. So we have to ensure that we prioritize monitoring and evaluation. Yeah. That's why I think for our projects, we have engaged the American Institute of Research that will do the evaluation component. But maybe as projects, for example, those that were successful, they are mandated to monitor the project, maybe with the support of MCA Zambia. So monitoring information is quite useful when we are implementing our projects. So we have to start thinking about it as we design our projects. And I think I can say something about maybe the current the successful grantees that we are having now. You find that when you look at maybe their budgets, they couldn't maybe budget M&E issues because they put them aside. When you ask them, how are you going to monitor this project? We don't have funds, we're asking for funds, because they did not perceive it at concept level. So we need to integrate and put these activities so that either they can be part of what you are contributing, or they can be something that you need to source out. For example, maybe your team, therefore, maybe engineers and technocrats, maybe monitoring and evaluation, you don't have that expert. You can start thinking of, well, maybe you need to engage somebody to come and handle your project. So for those that have bigger grants, that will require maybe more resources. So we need to look at those issues. Yeah. So I'll just talk about the rationale. Why do we need monitoring and evaluation? So M&E helps us to make informed decisions regarding the ongoing project. For example, you'll be able to know whether your project is being implemented based on what you planned. So if it's not, then you're able to come up with the corrective measures or actions to ensure that your project goes as you planned it. You are implementing or you're delivering based on what you had planned. It also ensures that you use your resources very effective and also efficient, because you have to ensure that you're on time, you're also on budget, and you are within the cost that you are planned. Because monitoring is also about design, it's not only monitoring. So there are other aspects that you will take into consideration. M&E, it helps to preserve the institutional memory. For example, if after 5 years you want to know what you implemented, for example, Nowadays, we talk about the World Bank. They did something in Tendere. It was also because of M&E issues. You're able to go and get an evaluation report or how they are doing the implementation, because information was available that the strength may be in monitoring and other issues. So there are records that are all available. So it helps us also to know what you have been doing, how you delivered your project, what lessons came out from your project. All that is to do with monitoring. So monitoring is not something that we have to do just to please the donor, no. It's an integral part of the project. We can't do without monitoring. So it's part of the whole picture of the project. Yeah. So at the concept level, we have just kept it very simple. There's no need for us to come up with log frames or logical frameworks. So that will be done at a later stage. So at the concept note, we should start by defining a very clear objective. As we have seen in the template, you have to come up with a very clear objective, which will be our project goal. If we come up with a very good goal, it's what will help us when we are coming up with a logical framework that will talk about the outcomes, activities that we are going to do. And that should be linked to the problem statement that was published in the core. So as you are developing your core, make sure that it's addressing the problem statement that was put either in the papers or on the internet. So the project should address one or several problems. For example, some people can go into supply, you combine it maybe with sanitation. Maybe, for example, if you're doing interventions in Tendere. Or you can just say, okay, as we only focus on water supply. It's up to you. If you say, no, we can do all the three. We can do water supply, we can do sanitation, we can do also solid waste management. All those. So we have to ensure that at least the links to the problem statement that was put. And there should be very clear understanding and analysis of the context of the problems that are going to be solved. So that should be defined in your project as you are describing your project goal or the project objective. Okay. So there's need for a problem analysis, where we need to describe in simple terms or baseline issues. I think my colleague talked about it. The quantitative maybe research that have been done by the CSO. You can go and look at the census report. You can look at the demographic and health surveys. You can look at the living condition, and monitoring surveys. So you can get information about these wards or maybe constituencies based on the scope of your project. You'll be able to get information. So you need to show how many residents you are going to reach or the beneficiaries, because that are quite important as we are looking at your cost and also the beneficiary, because one of the scoring criteria for you to come up with the per capita cost, because that's quite key. How much money are we putting? How many beneficiaries are we getting? That's also important for us as MCSM, because we cannot give you 1 million, then you come and say, no, my beneficiary will be only 500. So how are we going to invest in such a project? So we need also numbers they talk. So we need to understand the situation. So we need to read documents that were done, maybe for example, water sanitation for the urban poor. All those reports can get some numbers and some statistics from there. Or you can do qualitative methods where you go and visit, you ask these people so that you get the clear picture of the scope of the problem that you have. So if you don't know where you started from, definitely you won't know how far you have come. So you need to have a clear context of where we're starting from. If we are going to Tendere, how are the statistics talking about? Are we together? Even when you want to measure and say, okay, this is how we have left the community, or you want to evaluate, this is how we have left this community, you should know where you found that community at. So those numbers, they need to talk to us, so that at least we know where we are moving and where we are going. So the project objectives. So we need to talk about the impact in the what will be the expected benefits based on the couple of activities that we need to link the activities that we are going to implement, the core activities, and also the expected impact out of it. We need to demonstrate how the achievement will come before they describe the specific problems. So they have to be that logical and sound maybe or clear links between them. So on the basis of the well-defined project in this way, it has to be sound as a goal. This is what we are going to look also in the evaluation criteria. Is the goal sound? Is it very clear? Are there linkages between activities and what they're trying to achieve these people? There should be that logical sense. Because can't put activities that won't even lead to a goal. So we start looking at those things, whether your project logic is sound, whether your activities will lead to a goal. Yeah. Also in the concept note, we are looking at the targets. So we're targeting the poor, vulnerable beneficiaries. Those are the numbers that we are looking at. As M&D, we look at statistics. So the numbers, so as my colleague, I think they explained very much on the vulnerable people and all those things. So those are the statistics that we also look at, the women and the other vulnerable groups that are there in the communities. And also the capital benefit. I talked about the cost of the project and also the benefits. It's part of the evaluation criteria. They will look at the cost of your project and the beneficiary. And when you talk about the beneficiary here, we're talking about only direct beneficiaries, the people that will benefit from your project. So that number will be divided by the cost. So they want to see how much you are spending taking a service maybe to one person. They will also compare with other projects and say, I think this project is quite efficient and effective. They're almost doing the same project. The per capita benefit is more with this project because these are reaching out to more people than the other one, but they're almost spending the same amount. So we need to look at the total cost of the project over the total number of beneficiaries that will come from the project. Yeah, at concept note, so we are only about 5 points, which are part of it. They're not mandatory as such, but they're quite key because we need to look at your project design. Is it sound? Does it link to the proposed activities? And also the cost effectiveness, so the issue I was talking about, the capital benefit. Yeah. And the other issues, I think, to do with targeting the poor in terms of the weights. I think my colleague talked about the 10 points and also about women. Those are also where we, as M&D, will be also assisting our colleagues to ensure that those indicators, those issues are also taken into consideration. Looking down the road, at concept level, we have just kept it very minimal. But what you should know is, as we are developing a concept, if you go through, at proposal level, you'll be required to develop a very simple logical framework that will include the project goal, which will be included in your concept note. Because we'll just lift it or refine it a bit and include it in your proposal. You will talk about your specific objectives, which are outcomes and also outputs, as well as activities. I think these will be explained further in a presentation if you go through for the proposal of the things that are required when you are developing your logical framework. We'll also make sure that you develop your indicators. How are you going to, these will be variables that will show in terms of the progress that you are making. And we also require you to provide the data sources. Where are you going to get the information in terms of the indicators that you're going to put in your proposal? And different in all projects, sometimes there are certain risks and the assumptions. So we ensure that at proposal stage level, we are going to include those. And also the scoring weights for M&D at the proposal stage will increase. So we'll have more weight because that's when we are now ensuring that our project is well designed and all that. Then when you are successful at the proposal stage, then you'll be required to develop a monitoring and evaluation plan as part of the grants agreement. So that monitoring and evaluation plan, it will go deeper into how are you going to collect the data, how often, the methodology you're going to use, and all those aspects, who will be responsible, and all those parts. So those will be only when you are successful at a proposal stage level. That's when you end up, when the grant agreement is signed, you have to ensure that you develop your M&D plan extensively. So this is my presentation that I had. Unless maybe there are any questions, clarifications, and all that, try to rush through because I think we are not a time. So if there are any questions, any clarification? Yes.
I'm just wondering, because can it change that the letters take for
Before grant signing, during the negotiation, there is an opportunity to make adjustments. One thing I would like to stress is that remember to include the cost in your M&D budget.
Yeah.
And also we are all private sector. The M&D is very critical. Once you implement your project successfully, it's evidence to other donors. Look, we implemented this, rigorously evaluated, we are capable. More kwachamina in your pockets. Okay, that's all. Any questions?
Maybe the last one unrelated. Just a general one. If someone is not able to, for some reason, change their concept notes via email or via hard copy, can they bring a method for this?
Yes. It's okay, they can bring as long as it's before 17 hours on 5th February. So, it seems we are coming to an end. We are waiting for another group coming in the afternoon. So, maybe we can close up, yes?
So, since we have come to an end, let me take this opportunity to actually thank MCA Zambia for bringing all these private sector organizations, and indeed on my own behalf, for this interactive session that has been very informative, and also MCA enriching, and wish good luck to those that will submit the concept 17 hours before and also those that will go to the next stage. I thought that I should give this vote of counsel voluntarily.
And just as closing remarks, I would like once again to thank you, everyone, individually and as organizations, private sector, and I would like to sincerely urge you to go and write your concept notes. Wherever you are not sure, please, MCAs and we are available. You can write to me, you can call me, and there, that's what I do, we can talk to you. Particularly, you request for me, I have my colleague, Emmanuel, the grants manager, but he has a bereavement, is not with us. You can even meet him, he's capable of doing it. And also Mr. Samuel is one of, we are about 3 people you can talk to at MCA Zambia, not with the IGPM, because they are part of the panel. We don't want that to influence them because we are talking to them, that idea is good. No, it's us who are not part of the panel. Thank you very much, and may God bless you all.
Thank you.